Hello and welcome to my how-to video on Premiere Pro, also covering the principles of editing and cutting and transitions. So first of all we're going to talk about cutting and assembling. And cutting and assembling is used to affect the audience's reaction and feeling. So if it's fast cuts for an action scene, then the audience's heart rates go up and they're racing, and obviously they get a lot more excited. So therefore, that's an action scene. Whether it's a love scene, it's slow shots, which imply love, and that slows the audience's heart rates down, and it all flows quite nicely. Quick cuts can also be used to make the audience assume things, and this makes the audience have a physical reaction. And to demonstrate this, I have filmed here on my screen. I have filmed a short little video of my friend drinking. So to lay out Premiere Pro, this is the timeline down here. This is the effects bar. This is the final video which you're going to be playing out, and this is the main video and where you can control any effects. This is the import bar here. So we're going to be looking down at the timeline. So right now I've got 3 clips into the timeline. I've put them all in. You just drag and drop them down, so they're all in order. And when I play it out, although he's not drinking, the way I have placed the clips and used the camera angles will make you assume that he is. So here you go. The screen will be coming up here. All right. So there you go. Although obviously he wasn't drinking, the shots that I'd used made it look like he really was, which is a really good way to do it. So you don't actually have to do a lot of the things required for your film. You can just make it look like you have done those things. Cuts can be used to, like I said before, create high tension and high action scenes by using really fast cuts. And here is an example of a fast cut. It's the James Bond Quantum of Solace movie. This shot obviously consists of a lot of different camera shots, and although it's not easy to do and probably cost a fortune, it really works well, and the shots are fast, and you can, although it's quite difficult to see what's happening, you can instantly tell what is happening. Another thing that this piece of footage is called a montage, which is a very quick ensemble of a lot of clips, really shortened down. So it's just a lot of clips all banged in together, and it's called a montage. And the first ever montage that we know about was called the Soviet montage, and it was created by Sergei Eisenstein, and it was for Bolshevik propaganda during the Russian Civil War, and it's very well done. All the clips are really short. In that time, most American films consisted of around 74 cuts throughout the whole film, and when this Soviet montage came out, it consisted of more than 2,000 cuts throughout the whole film. So it's a lot shorter clips, and they're put together in such a way that it makes the audience assume stuff. So here is a clip from the Soviet montage. from this piece of footage, there was a person throwing what looked like a grenade, and then the next shot was an explosion. Although this may not have been a grenade that this person was throwing, it may have just been a can of baked beans. But the fact that he was throwing it and then there was an explosion makes the audience automatically assume that what he was throwing caused the explosion, even though they may not have been related in any way possible. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to be talking about is transitions. And now, transitions are a very widely used bit of effect, but not many of them are used because many of them are pretty awful. You get ones like a triangle spreading across the screen, and stuff like that will absolutely ruin pretty much any scene you're trying to get, unless you're zooming out from a triangle, which is very unlikely. But if you are, then don't take my advice and use that transition. The most widely used transitions, and to get transitions on Premiere Pro, you screw over to this thing, click on video transitions over here, and then here are all your transitions. There are more in the drop down folders. The most used transitions are these ones, the dissolve ones. So you've got additive dissolve, cross dissolve, dip to black, dip to white, and film dissolve. These are the most used transitions to date. So the one right now, the piece of footage that I've got here is just this. Now these two bits of footage don't really work well together. They are there's not really a flow between the two. So right now he's walking up the road, and then suddenly he's opening a door, and there is no way that we can tell that he's got to this place. A way that we can do that, if we didn't have the footage in between, is to use cross dissolve. Now this is a transition which basically shows the passing of time. If I drag it in now, you just drag it in, pop it over the top, click on it, double click on it, and select center cut. This will put it in between both things. If you have it at the end of one, it will just fade to black. If you have it in between both things, then it will go across. Now, if we watch the footage back again, it just flows a lot more easier. It's so much more simple, and it's so much easier to understand that it's just past time, and this is where he is. You can see him walking, and now you know he's got to his destination. So that is one way for a transition to be used. The most widely used transitions, like I said, would be these ones. But there are transitions, for example, in the Star Wars film, which aren't these ones. This is a clip from Star Wars with all the transitions in that. Okay, so as you saw from that, those transitions were not just dissolve and fade to black, they were a lot of wipes. Now wipes are not widely used, but in that film obviously they were used quite a lot. Transitions are basically a type of cut which link two scenes together, and like I said, dissolve shows the passing of time. Wipe will be used to show different locations, but dissolve can also be used to show that as well. The history of transitions is that they were first used by editors who wanted to show off their technical skills. So it was more of a boasting thing than something that really looked good. You can use them when trying to create quick cuts between different scenes, but unfortunately a lot of them do not look professional and will take away the tempo of the scene, as a lot of transitions are quite long and can ruin the scene if the objective is to create fast-paced action. So I'll show you a really bad transition now. And if we go on to something like page reel and tick page turn and drag this in to the end here, this transition will not be a good transition to use if you're trying to create an action film like the James Bond scene. So obviously that just doesn't really look good. It looks very childish. It just doesn't work. So you want to stick away from transitions like that, and stick more with the most commonly used ones. Or if you're trying to do something different, then go for it. Go ahead, try and use stuff like that. Now, the next thing that I'm going to talk about is continuity. And continuity is basically keeping the story similar. I'm also going to be talking about story-centered editing and the construction of meaning. So you're going to want to edit in the right order. So if you have a shot where someone's waking up and then you have a shot where they're going to sleep, it doesn't really work well. You want to have them the other way around. So you're going to have the shot where they're going to sleep and then they're waking up. Then it flows quite obviously that they've just slept through the night. Another thing you're going to want to focus on is continuity errors. And this would be put simply, here he is wearing a white t-shirt and a grey jacket. Obviously, the next scene, he's still wearing a white t-shirt and a grey jacket. A continuity error would be if he was now wearing a red t-shirt and a brown jacket. And these happen a lot in films, and it sort of can ruin the story, and even if they're minute, they can still be spotted quite easily. Here is a bit of a gag reel of all the continuity errors from Star Wars, and apparently there's 250 of them in one episode, so...
Luke? Tell Uncle if he gets a translator, be sure it speaks Bocce.
Doesn't look like we have much of a choice, but I'll remind him. Uncle Owen!
Yeah?
The R2 unit has a bad motivator, look!
Hey, what are you trying to push on us?
Excuse me, sir, but that R2 unit is in prime condition, a real bargain.
Uncle Owen!
Yeah?
What about that one?
What about that blue one? We'll take that one.
What is it?
It's your father's lightsaber. This is the weapon of a Jedi Knight. Not as clumsy or random as a blaster.
Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about is something called cutaways, and these are bridging shots, and although they may not be filmed on the same date, the way they are put together in the editing, which is basically in the centre, the other shot, you want one shot, another shot, which is basically the same thing, and a centre shot, which is a different thing. It will make it look like it's happening at the same time. And in this case, this shot and this shot were filmed a day after this one was. But if you watch in sequence,
just kind of one more thing.
it sort of looks like they're happening at the same time. And this also avoids a jump cut of the same person. So if someone's made a mistake, instead of just cutting it out, you can put another clip over the top of it instead, and then it works as well. These are mostly used in documentaries or in wildlife presentation documentary things. So documentaries.
He clears a space in the forest to serve as his concert platform.
Another thing that I'm now going to talk about is called creating meaning outside of the story. And these are, it's basically just, again, continuity. And it means the time and the space match. So if it's nighttime in one scene, it's got to be nighttime in the next scene, if it's not a transition into daytime. So you don't want to have errors like that. You've also got to make sure the editing is, as it be, invisible. So you can't tell when someone's really jumped to something else. It's not an obvious thing, it's a subconscious. And also the viewer must not be distracted by awkward jump shots. And an awkward jump shot would be something if I put that there instead. And now if you watch this, that's an awkward jump shot right here, this area. And you don't want those in your film. So that's a good thing to avoid. I'm now going to talk about shot reverse shot, and this is something that you want to have if you're doing a conversation. Shot reverse shot is basically you have a conversation over the shoulder of someone else, and then from the other person that he's talking to or she's talking to over their shoulder. and there is something called the 180-degree rule. Unfortunately, I have no footage where the shot reverse shot is used, so I will have to put in this piece of footage here, which explains the shot reverse shot and the 180-degree rule.
One of the first things we need to cover in making any movie is orienting the viewer. The first rule we can look at is the 180-degree rule. Once you establish a scene and show where people are, you've also established the 180-degree rule. From this master shot, we've established that the woman is on the right and the man is on the left. That means that whenever we show them, he should be on the left and she should be on the right side. From the overhead, we can show that as soon as we place them for the camera, the placement of the camera can only go anywhere on this side of the line, meaning 180 degrees on this line. We can aim the camera in any direction, but it must be on this side of the line. Now, even though from overhead we can clearly see where the actors are, it's not as clear from what the camera sees. If we break the 180-degree rule and place one camera here and the other camera over here, the camera view shows the actors facing the same direction. Even when the angles are not as blatantly off, it can be disorienting because the actors' eye lines won't match. Now, you can cross the 180-degree line, but you have to show the camera move, like so. Not only do you have to shoot this movement of crossing the line, but you also have to use it in the edit. That way you orient the viewer. Once you're on the other side of the line, you have to stay on it, unless you move the camera back to the other side. Remember, the camera is the viewer in the scene. They're a non-active participant in everything that's going on. They only see what you show them.
Okay, thank you very much for watching my video, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sure you didn't, because it was very, very boring. But anyway, goodbye, and thanks for watching.